50-foot buffer zone. What does that mean? Well, in Minnesota it means a lot, and I'll tell you more. So in Minnesota, the 50-foot buffer zone is a buffer zone that you need to have free of everything near a waterway. And if you don't, then of course the government and the DNR and everybody gets excited and they start telling you what you can and can't do with your property. Well, it just happens to be that I actually have a piece of property that's in the buffer zone. Now, before it was a 16-foot buffer zone for a non-waterway, but more like a ditch, okay? And then now they changed it to 50-foot for waterways and added whatever. On my property, though, they claim that I have a waterway. Well, in the back of my property, there's a farmer farms our field for us, and well, for himself, but he farms it so we don't have to deal with it. But on the back side of the property, there's like I mean, in the spring it could be considered maybe a waterway. I don't think you could canoe down the river or the waterway from point A to point B, and get anywhere, because, when you get to our property, it turns into this mud hole. It's not really running water there. It's just kind of like a marsh, like a swamp. It's more just wet ground. Like after a bad rain, when you have like mud puddles and stuff. That's kind of what it is on the backside of our property. But because some guy was on Google Maps one day and decided that he was going to look at our property, he decided that, hey, we need to have a 50-foot buffer zone. Now, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. It requires a waterway to have a 50-foot buffer zone. We don't have a waterway. We have a mud hole. Now, if you can canoe through that mud hole, awesome, more power to you. Well, anyway, so I get a mail from the Soil and Water Conservation people of Roseau County, and they tell me that by Governor Dayton's order of buffer zones, you have to go ahead and comply, or blah, 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 blah. Well, I don't know what the or blah, 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 blah is going to be, because, well, I've never been in this kind of situation where they're trying to take my property from me or tell me what I could do with my property. The thing that I pay property taxes on, and the thing that my name's on, and things that I'm responsible for. But somehow Governor Dayton decided he was going to sign through a bill. And you know what? To be fair, I don't know who started this bill. I'm going to look into this. And when I do find more on it, I will talk about it more. Because this is silly. Taking our property from us for a buffer zone. So that's essentially 50 feet on either side of the river. Or that's what they call it. It's a mud flat. Anyway, 50 feet on either side, so they get 100 feet of your property that you can't do anything with. Well, I don't own the stuff on the south side, but I own the stuff on the north side, so some other guy's got to deal with the garbage on the other side. But, mark my words, when I look into this, and I will look into this, and I will talk to the local representative that deals with this kind of garbage, and I'm going to get down to why they did it. And there's always speculations, and we've talked about it, and well, we got to protect the wetlands. Well, you know what? I'm not doing anything with the wetlands on my property anyway. So I haven't done anything with the wetlands. And yes, I have like 3 acres of wetlands. That's just useless property. I can't do anything with it. It just sits there. And because it's been declared wetlands, and it's got to be sacred to yet nothing goes back there except for my cats to hunt and kill little mice and stuff. But I probably shouldn't have put that on YouTube because, well, now they can know that my cats are back there and they can find me for that. Anyhow, yeah, so when I get to the bottom of that, I will talk about this a lot more. But right now, my initial knee-jerk reaction is, this is bullcrap. You should not be able to just decide what I can and can't do with my property. It's not your property, it's mine. It's not like I'm leasing it from the state of Minnesota. Oh well. I will get to the bottom of this, and I will not sit back taking this down, laying down. I won't take this laying down, okay? I will actually decide what I'm going to do about this once I research a little more and see who started this bill. And I do have some suspicions of who started this bill. I'm sure it had something to do with the silly dwellers, or city dwellers, whichever you want to call them, that don't have property anywhere except for concrete, and don't know what it's like to live in where you can actually look out your door and not see a neighbor. Or the silly social people that live in the big cities that, you know, because they have all this convenience of everything right next to them, that, well, you know, we should everybody should live by their rules, right? Well, no and no. Now, there's nothing about the piece of my property that's accessible anywhere on that backside of the property. It's not accessible anywhere. Like, you have to go to my property to get to that. So if you're going to say that as public property, or, you know, wetlands or whatever you're going to protect, nothing goes back there, I promise you. Like I said, other than my cats to hunt and kill off the mice and stuff. Maybe a random deer walks through. But I'm guessing just because the farmer has been farming that property for 30 years or more, nothing's going to change, right? If you leave it the way it is. Except for the fact that he's going to lose more farmland. Again, I believe that's some form of control. So, but we'll talk about that when I figure out what's really going on with this law. I'm actually going to print this law out, and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to find out who wrote it. I'm going to find out who started it, and then I'm going to make another video. That'll be the part 2 video of this series. And then maybe I'll do a part 3 about what I'm doing in the process to reverse this stupid decision about taking my property from me. Oh yeah. I have to seed it, and then I have to keep it weeded. So I can't let weeds grow there on my property if I want. So it kind of makes you wonder, what happens out in property that's not owned by private people, like in the government? Is there weeds out in the woods? I mean, I've been out to the woods a few times, and I think there might be weeds out there. I'm not sure, just saying. Anyhow, I think that'll be about it for this rant. I'm gonna end it here because I still have some research to do on this, and we're going to come back to this subject of the soil water conservation people in the 50-foot buffer zone. Until next time, my name's Scott. You call me Guff. Signing off.